Howdy, howdy, folks. We are here at the Newport City Hall for the City Council work session and meeting. I know a few things are on the on the docket for today. One of them being they are going to go over the survey for the Bayfront parking meters. See what the public is feeling and seeing about that. I know another thing for the City Council today, they are going to be proposing a fireworks ban, so they are trying to further that and make it so you cannot light fireworks at your own home on the 4th of July or anywhere else or any other time during the summer. There's more stuff to it. Let's get into it and see what's going on.
Yeah, next item 3C is our Bayfront parking survey results presented by John.
I will work to keep us within a short time limit here, so I don't want you to turn into rabid dogs here at any point. So we recently conducted a Bayfront parking survey, and I wanted to just kind of go over the basics of it. The why is the first part of it, but it's pretty valuable for us to get feedback of the people directly in the middle of that program. And that kind of rolls into the next part, who was surveyed and why. This survey was specifically for business owners and employees on the Bayfront, on Bay Boulevard. It does not include commercial fishers. It also doesn't include any homeowners or visitors down to the Bayfront. This was very strictly for those businesses and business owners down there. One of the questions that you'll see, there weren't many questions in the survey. There's a couple reasons for that. One, we're opening dialogue with a lot of these businesses for the first time. So the first question is just to get an idea of what enhancements to the program and are a priority for the people down there. How can we improve this for you, both as an employee and as a business owner? How can we make this better with what we're doing? And that's, end of the day, that's the overall goal of what you want to do. Hopefully you can all see that pretty clearly. Obviously a pretty heavy lean toward incentives for Newport residents. Are there any questions on this before we move on?
Yeah. Did the questions originate in the committee, John, or did they originate from you or staff? Like, because when you brought up that first thing about incentives, it made me think like, I mean, if we're putting that out there, like, I feel like we should have some follow through. People are gonna say, yeah, we want incentives. And if we're like, well, if we don't have incentives, then that's kind of awkward to put that out there, right? Because then people are gonna be like, where are my incentives? You know? So I just wonder, like, where did the questions for the survey originate?
They originated from me and then passed around staff at that point. This is a biggie. You know, we wanted to get an idea of, you know, one thing we hear is, you know, well, what are you doing with the money? What are you doing with the money? That's the number one question we get down there. And so we wanted to kind of a little bit put that in their court as well and say, what's priority to you? What do you feel this, you know, you're the ones who live, work, park down in this area. How can we improve this with that money? And obviously that money is strictly to be used in the parking districts here in the city of Newport. There was something I thought was a little interesting. It seemed to be the most divisive one within here, which is the trolley, which I know has been discussed at some point, connecting Night Beach, South Beach, Bayfront, City Center, all those sorts of areas. And so that was either people really thought it was a priority or they really did not think it was a priority. Quite a bit about the zones, eliminate zones, can we park anywhere? And I'll give kind of a specific example. A lot of people said they would come down and try to park in their zone and parking spots are all full. And then they have to go park in another zone or in another area, but they don't have a permit for that, so then they have to move their car later on, and it becomes kind of a whole game. And then last slide, this was just kind of some extra thoughts that I gathered from my canvassing down there. You know, some things in. We just kind of talked about the first one a little bit. parking on the hills. A lot of people say, especially when it rains, it can be slippery, it can be a little dangerous. And lighting on there can be a little rough, so especially at night, a lot of people just weren't comfortable with having to park on the hill, but it's also their only option. Sometimes, depending on what time they get down there. Employees often have to leave their shops to give instructions to people. Is something I heard quite a bit down there. That falls into the education process that we've talked on, and the things that maybe we can provide to those businesses down there. And something I've seen a little bit, though I think it's been corrected mostly, is that credit cards can sometimes take multiple attempts to go through, depending on what you're dealing with. I've had that. I can say my bank sometimes doesn't like to see a $1 charge, because that's what scammers usually use to see if you have room on your card, and then they'll do a big charge. So you can run into that a little bit, and those are just the realities of a program like this. So those are kind of the main takeaways from this survey. So and like I said, Parking Advisory Committee will be taking some of these things into consideration, having those discussions as well. On the education side, there are certainly things we can assist with and help out with. So beyond that, are there any questions?
Let's keep them brief, and really do appreciate you're right. It feels like you're right on, but Sienna?
Two things. One, I think we talked at a previous meeting recently about how the kiosks are spread pretty far apart. And did the business owners mention anything about like having like a thing on their businesses, or maybe we talked about this and I'm maybe I'm repeating myself, about because they have to go so far to the kiosk that if they have something on their business like window or at their register that's like they can scan that, then they can pay for parking, so they don't have to go back down to the thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Am I making this up? We were
Now, we have two folks who signed up for comment on this item. Paul Morris. You have up to 3 minutes.
Is it 17 still again?
Yes. Yeah. I'm on track now.
Okay. My name is Paul Mars. I live in Newport. I realize that the vote to restrict the use of otherwise legal fireworks is just a matter of formality. However, I feel I would be remiss in not making these points. There has never been a recorded instance of our fire department responding to a fire inside our city limits caused by fireworks of any kind, let alone the sparklers and fountains enjoyed by Newport children for decades. And the other point is the fifth whereas of the resolution that states, whereas all fire agencies in Lincoln County will be closing backyard debris burning by June 15, 2025, further indicating elevated wildfire risk, is a little misleading given that backyard debris burning is banned every year, and its inclusion seems to be merely inflammatory in nature. That's all I came to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Aaron Brett, did I get that right? Oh.
Thank you. My name is Aaron Brett. I live up off of 71st Street here in Newport. I came to speak on this agenda item. I oppose the resolution to restrict fireworks in Newport this year. I'm a retired senior chief petty officer in the Coast Guard. I retired out of Station Depot Bay. I was the officer in charge. I've been assigned at this station here in Newport. Yaquina Bay, Depot Bay, Westport, Washington, Florence, Oregon, Bodega Bay, California, and then I lived in Petaluma, California for a few of those years as well. So I've got a fair amount of experience in different types of town ordinances and approaches to fireworks and things like that. I point out that so we're looking at the long-term weather outlook. It's not really a forecast. It's a long-term weather outlook for the summer, which is not always accurate. One of the worst storms I can remember in this area was June of 1999, I think it was. We had a nasty storm blow through here and saturate the entire area the last week of June, right before the 4th of July. A couple years ago, when this was talked about before, it was a similar situation. The long-term weather outlook called for a dry summer the week before 4th of July. It was wet and the actual fire risk the week of the 4th of July was low. So there's a couple of points there. One of them is if we look ahead to the winter, maybe we're going to have a nasty winter this year, but we don't cancel days of school months in advance because we're worried about the possibility of ice and snow. You wait. Why do you do that? You wait until the time when you actually know what the weather's doing, because you know that school is important and we don't really know what the weather's going to be doing, so you lean into it and you go ahead and you do what you're going to do, but you do it carefully. And that's the approach that I think is the more prudent one here. Our family has enjoyed fireworks for all of those years that we could. There was areas that we lived where it was outlawed too, but it's a big part of our family tradition. And so I don't want to diminish. You know, you might think of it, yeah, some kids with fireworks, but it's a big deal. It's really important to kids. We lived in California for a few years where we couldn't do it. And one of the biggest things that they were happy about coming back to Oregon was the fact that we can once again have our family traditions with our neighbors and enjoy Independence Day the way that we always had before. And that's not something that should be diminished or reduced its importance of. It's very important to the community. It's important to family members. And it's important to my family. I got a daughter. My oldest is a sergeant in the Marine Corps. My second daughter is an airman in the Navy. I got a 16-year-old. And fortunately, we were surprised and blessed with a 5-year-old. We would like to be able to teach him how to responsibly set off fireworks. We do it the same way every year with buckets of water, fire extinguishers, and I'm not special. I do it the same way that everybody else does it. We're not running around lighting off Roman candles at each other like I used to do when I was a kid. That was stupid, you know. That's not what people do. And if you want to teach people how to be responsible, you go ahead and allow it. You put out the word on how to be responsible. You encourage people to do the right thing. And the last thing that I want our police to be doing on the 4th of July, during a time when DUIs and public safety is a real problem, is running around trying to run down somebody who's mad because fireworks are loud, because they are. And it's annoying sometimes, but that's the sound of freedom. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, a review of the ordinance. So ordinance Municipal Code 8.20020 allows the City Council to restrict the use of consumer fireworks for a designated amount of times if conditions warranted. That's the way the ordinance reads.
My impression for this ordinance was that it was primarily to help the fireworks vendors plan, because if they can't sell, they don't want to buy their inventory. So we kind of have to implement this without good knowledge in advance. So I mean, I think that's just the trade-off that we have to make. If, say, it's September and someone's setting off fireworks in their yard and the police drive, I guess this is probably for Chief Malloy more than you, but would there be enforcement if anyone saw something happening outside of 4th of July? Do you know? I know the fire department doesn't enforce, right?
That's correct. The fire department does not allow Chief Malloy to step over here and comment.
Thank you, Chief.
The simple answer, probably not. So we've gone through this before, and I know this was a big discussion last year. We don't have the staff or resources to respond to all complaints. Would we?
Having had the experience of, my house happens to be on a very steep hill, and someone down the hill this last year was setting off illegal fireworks, aerial ones, and 2 days later I found smoldering embers in pots of plants on our deck.
So I just want to point out that the resolution that you are about to vote on is allowed under the ordinance for restricting the use of fireworks. There is not language in the current ordinance about restricting their sales. We would have to modify the ordinance. So that's just what I want to point out. So, okay, which means we would have to bring to you a modification of the ordinance if you want to do that.
So just to be clear, that means they can set up the stand to sell the fireworks, but anyone who purchased them wouldn't be allowed technically to use them.
That is correct. The other thing I will point out is that the permits, both locally, special event permits, and the state fire marshal's permits have already been signed and approved. So we do that. I mean, the state fire marshal permits are done clear back in February, March.
So really looks weird ban the use of fireworks and then have stands that are out there in Fred Meyer or wherever selling fireworks. So there's nothing we can do about that. It's just, it looks bad. It looks absurd, actually, is what it looks like. Especially when you can't use them, outside the city and the county and all of that. So there's nothing we can do about it, but.
Actually, there was, I think last year we did talk about how those vendors did have to post something. I'm pretty sure we talked about that they had to post some sign that said, in the city of Newport, you cannot use these. I'm almost positive we discussed that at the council.
I wish I could remember.
No, but at the vendor that we said in the city of Newport, you cannot use these fireworks. Can I get an amen? Can anyone corroborate that was said? But I don't know if that we took that a step further, like anyone who's actually pulling a business license or whatever you're talking about to actually have those sales, like, are we following up with them to say, like, you also need to make sure you're posting this, that, like, folks need to know that if they are gonna sell in front of the Fred Meyer or the Armory or wherever, that they can't actually use it.
Well, we do inspections of the fireworks sites, and so that's something we could remind them as we're doing our inspection.
I do know that when we banned the use but permitted the sale, we had officers driving around and officer friendly. We point this out to people, they were really confused.
Yeah.
And well, why are
It's
you?
inconsistent.
We got accused of a lot of things.
You know, it's
None of them were nice.
Nobody said thank you, man.
Shocking.
Okay. Unless there's further discussion on this particular motion, that can carry on vote for that. This is again banning the use. So, without objection? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Boo.
Anything further on this? Or
The concern I would have is that you're singling out these two vendors, saying you can't come here, but then the box stores and any other store is allowed to do it. And so I guess my suggestion would be, is if it is denied, that letter is sent to the others, letting them know of the council discussions and the future discussions, of the possible ban on the selling, just so that they're aware these two aren't being singled out, but unfortunately due to timing,
right.
you don't have time to put an effective ordinance together, or us. Fairness.
No, that makes sense. Not sure exactly what to do, but thank you for keeping that stirred up. My opponent, of course, has nothing to say on the matter.
Is this the big zero?
Right. Nothing like a mandate. So, we reached the, any other comments from, okay. Any public comment? Yes, come forward, please.
Howdy, council. I just want to say I am disappointed with the council tonight. It is not your job to play future cop. It is funny how there is a distinction that we can all understand between illegal and legal fireworks in Oregon. All of the concerns based on the experience I've heard tonight are from illegal fireworks. Your right, or my rights, do not stop where your begin. And it does look ridiculous to tell the vendors to post signage not to use product that they are selling. You just made more work for your police department on a night that they are already going to be stretched very thin. I could speak of tradition and kids, but I'll speak from where I'm coming from. I am a grown-ass man with no intentions of hurting or pulling one over on anyone, and you're trying to tell me what to do. That is un-American. Being afraid does not make you a coward. How you respond to that fear does. Freedom is scary. Deal with it.
Anyone else? Carry through. Okay, well, I will then adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.